everyone, my name is Maz and I'm here at the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival hosting the Backstage podcast. I'm pleased to introduce my guest today, Shaikh Fahim Al-Qasimi. Shaikh Fahim is otherwise known as the Turtle Sheikh. He is co-founder of Seafood Souq, a digital ecosystem for global seafood, and he's also ambassador of Dubai Turtles, as well as being an Emirati diplomat and politician. Wow, how do you fit everything into your day, Fahim? What does your day look like?
My days really depend on the day, Maz. Let me tell you about my day yesterday.
Please.
So after my week in Sharjah, working on taking Sharjah's message to the world, which is what I do as the chairman of the Department of Government Relations, I woke up on Friday morning to a call from the Dubai Turtle Rehabilitation Center that's run by Jumeirah Hotel Group, saying that there was a turtle in distress about 10-15 minutes from where I live, and could I go and help rescue this turtle? So my Friday morning, after dropping my kids off at school, was spent jumping into the water, pulling out a 65-kilo male green turtle and sending it to the vets.
Wow.
And then I got back to work and worked on some Seafood Souq work and got to spend the afternoon with my kids, but there's no real consistency in my days.
So that's a politician, dad, entrepreneur, and turtle rescuer all in one day. What was wrong with the turtle?
We've done some blood work.
Mm-hmm.
The initial signs is that there was some water toxicity. The turtle had swallowed quite a lot of water that had some toxins in it, and therefore it was ill. We knew it was ill because it was floating on the surface. So when turtles cannot dive or they look very lethargic, that's usually the first sign that we need to step in and do something.
Is that common?
There are a lot of threats to sea turtles. My story with turtles started a number of years ago, where I was involved in 2 turtle rescues in the space of 9 months. Now, as somebody that grew up on the water, you would expect, yes, maybe I would, come across these incidents quite often. But the second one was a case of entanglement, and that really made me realize how big the issue was. Turtles today, suffer from the risk of being entangled in discarded fishing line or fishing nets. Some of them are hit by boats, and that's really hard to see.
Yeah.
The third risk is plastic ingestion, which is sometimes one of the root causes for some of the other issues. If a turtle swallows too much plastic, then they tend to get themselves in a bit of trouble by floating on the surface because they're ill. And then the last one is purely caused by nature. It usually happens to very young turtles in their first year, which we call cold stunning. So because they're cold-blooded animals, as the temperatures drop in our winter months here, the barnacles grow on them, and then that weighs down the little turtle. And those are the ones you'll see washed up on beaches. And as we tell everybody, please don't try to remove the barnacles. Just call us and we'll come and help.
Are these problems that are growing, or is it something that you guys are starting to solve in some ways?
So the problems are not unique to the United Arab Emirates nor the region. These are problems that turtles suffer from, or issues that we're tackling on a global level. And what we always say at the project, or what I remind people, is that turtles are migratory species. They don't stay in one place. Therefore, every turtle we save could have come from a distant shore. The green turtle that we saved yesterday most likely came from the Gulf of Oman. That's where green turtles nest and breed. Is the problem growing? I'm honest, Maz. The problem is not getting any better, especially with the plastic issue. Boat strikes are rarer. Entanglement, most of the times you won't hear about it when it happens, because it happens under the water.
Right.
It's usually scuba divers and free divers like myself that spot those. I'd like to focus on the things we can do, and obviously recycling that we do so well here in Sharjah, thanks to BIA, making sure that our waste doesn't end up in the oceans. Those are the first steps to start tackling the issue at hand.
And what kind of turtles can we find here besides green turtles?
So the ones that are actually native to our coast are called hawksbills. They're the only ones that are critically endangered, which is one of the reasons that all the projects across the country, whether Dubai's Turtle Rehabilitation Project or the Wildlife Center in Kalba, are extremely important to protect the hawksbills. Green turtles don't nest on our side of the coast, but they nest in Oman and other parts, so you'll see them. There's another species called a loggerhead, turtle that you'll spot on our side of the coast, and we've rescued and rehabilitated a few. And then in rarer cases, the olive ridley that we've saved a few of and released as well from the center. Leatherbacks and Kemp's Ridley turtles you won't find in our part of the world.
Which are the biggest ones that you're more likely to spot?
I would say most of the ones you'll spot are hawksbills and greens.
Okay.
We get a lot of those.
I went to Sri Lanka, and there's a beach there that has these gigantic turtles. I don't know which breed they are, but they were gorgeous. And
to get any turtle getting to that size, 1 in 10,000 really makes it to that size. So the turtle we saved yesterday was a large green male, so 65 kilo turtle. That's a 1 in 10,000 turtle.
Okay. How old would he be?
I'm guesstimating probably 30, 40 years old.
Okay.
So
nice.
That's a really, really rare case. And when we save a turtle, any turtle we save is important. When we save a turtle like that, there's a little bit of hope that, especially the males and females that breed or in their prime breeding sort of age are really important to us.
And what kind of work are you doing to help protect them?
So I talk about that. I'm about to talk about this as well now on stage. So time stamping this interview a little bit. I think one of the craziest parts of my journey with turtles was that after I'd saved the second turtle, Farah, her name was, that became a bit of a well-known story in the UAE. I was asked by Jumeirah Group whether or not I would come on as ambassador for their project, and I said on one condition. I'd really love to help. I'm not here just to show up at events.
Yeah.
And for the few weeks afterwards, because of the media storm around Turtle Shake and the title, people were contacting me when they found a turtle in distress through Instagram, and people that had my phone number were calling me. So I called Barbara Lang-Lenton. She's the director of aquariums at Jumeirah, and she's taught me everything I know. I said, who do I call if I find a sea turtle in distress? And she said, Fahim, if you find a sick or injured sea turtle, call the aquarium.
Okay.
And I asked what the number was. And it was it was a complicated number that nobody remembers today, because if you haven't got it saved in your phone, our generation doesn't remember telephone numbers.
Yeah.
So the next day I called up Etisalat, our telecommunications provider, and I said, I want the telephone number 800 Turtle.
Okay.
And they said, okay. And 800 Turtle is something that I spent very little amount of money on, really nothing. And that number alone has saved 100 turtles since we launched it. So, it's sometimes a little bit of a reminder that it's the small things that matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't take huge amounts of generosity or philanthropy to make a change. Other than that, I spend a lot of my time working with schools and brands and initiatives that want to educate younger members of our society on how to protect and what they can do to make a small difference in protecting these amazing creatures.
So besides calling 800 Turtle if they find a turtle in danger or need, what else can people be doing to protect, or just the ocean generally, to help the ocean?
Yeah, I wish I had all the answers. So the first thing is, if you do find a sick or injured sea turtle, the first thing to do is put it in a bucket or a small towel that's a little bit wet, just to keep the carapace or the shell covered, and then make sure that their head is able to breathe, right?
Okay.
So that they can breathe. Don't touch the barnacles. I think one of the biggest things that hurts my heart, and it really brings me to tears, is watching people trying to remove barnacles off turtles.
What happens if you do that?
They bleed and they can get infected, and turtles feel
because the
pain.
shell is like a skin?
Yeah, there are nerve endings in the carapace, and the barnacles actually root in them. The way in which we remove them takes a lot longer, but also doesn't harm the turtle in the process.
Right.
So that's why we say just don't do anything, just call 800 Turtle. As individuals, what I say is that plastic is not the cause. It's humans are the cause, right? We're the ones putting the plastics in the ocean. Sea turtles like jellyfish. They like to eat jellyfish. It's a great
There's
snack
loads
for them.
around here.
And therefore, when they see a plastic bag and they think that it looks like a jellyfish, they will try to eat it. And the first turtle we saved, Tiago, his name was, my buddy Sean found him wrapped up in a plastic bag. And he had eaten quite a bit of the plastic fiber. So those things, just make sure that people are very conscious of, their waste when they're on the beach or on the water is an extremely important part. And then just be more aware and take what I tell a lot of people to do is you don't have to be a scuba diver, but just put on a snorkel and get out in the ocean, and you'll see how diverse the marine life is.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time free diving, and you see all this life and this completely different world under the ocean. And I think if more people just saw that,
Yeah.
they'd be a lot more
protect
conscious
it.
on their decisions on land.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite spot, or is it a secret spot in the UAE you like to go?
I do have a favorite spot. My favorite spot is an environmental protected area that's part of Sharjah called Sir Bun Air.
Okay.
Sir Bun Air is a teardrop island in the Gulf. It's where I actually rescued the second turtle, Farah. I post pictures of me diving there, and they ask me if I'm in the Maldives.
Really?
But it is absolutely gorgeous. When I'm not there, I love the Maldives. I go back once a year to free dive there, and
Yeah.
just came back free diving with some stingrays and got to swim with some of them and almost get close enough to have a quick conversation with a few stingrays.
Wow.
That was pretty special.
Is there anything on your wish list still? Any
There are a
places you
lot.
wanna go?
There are a lot on my wish list. Less in terms of places I want to go, but things I particularly want to see. I am absolutely fascinated with marine life and turtles, obviously. But when I go sailing, I see a lot of dolphins.
You sail as well. Okay.
I'm a sailor
Wow.
as well. Yeah, so I grew up on the ocean. So sailing and seeing dolphins is really cool. But I'd love to free dive with whale sharks and free dive with dolphins.
Yeah.
I think that would be. I just don't think there's anything to describe the feeling that you feel when you experience that.
Yeah, my wish list is the whale sharks in Djibouti.
Okay.
I really want to do that. It looks incredible. They're so big and so gentle.
Yeah, the gentle giants of the sea.
Yeah, amazing. And so what came first? Was it the turtle inspiration or Seafood Souq? Like, what's the kind of timeline of setting up those things?
So the thing that came first was Seafood Souq. Sean and I both grew up in the ocean. Our love for the ocean was what brought us together to start, the business and see whether or not we could bring technology to create a more transparent supply chain of seafood, whether that's digitizing fisheries or helping people make better decisions on the seafood that they source. Sean, my co-founder of Seafood Souq, was the one that actually found the first turtle, Tiago, and I was the one that ended up cutting him free because Sean was exhausted from a 200-meter swim that he did with a turtle in his hand. And Sean was there actually the second time as well when I saved Farah, because outside, when we're not working on the business, we're actually in the water. So, so we kind of live and breathe it. I will say this because it's just to make this podcast a little bit more fun. The second turtle save, Sean was there as well, obviously. And one of our friends who knows us said, "Are you doing this for PR for Seafood Souq?" And because it is, but it is, it was super shocking that I had saved 2 turtles in 9 months.
Yeah.
And if you look on a map and you see where Sir Bun Air is, and you appreciate that the hour that I was free diving was a time that I saw a turtle drowning underwater wrapped up in fishing line. Like, what are the chances?
Yeah. You'd think that would inspire you, but you're already doing that work to try and create that transparency and get better fishing.
Yeah, but I think if you're a person like me and you believe in signs in life, then I was meant to be there at that time, and I think since then I've decided to dedicate all of my free time to protecting these amazing creatures.
Wow. And what is it you're trying to achieve with Seafood Souq?
With Seafood Souq, we're extremely focused on bringing impact, me personally, with our traceability product. We have a product called SFS Trace. Trace is a suite of technology products that allow fisheries, aquaculture farms, and people in the supply chain to showcase where their fish is coming from. It basically demands the transparency that you should be demanding as a consumer for any product that you eat. We launched the first digital fisheries program very proudly in South Africa. There's a tuna fisheries there run by Michelle at a company called ICV. They deployed our digital logbook, and today any tuna that is caught pole in line, so no nets, i.e. Very minimally invasive form of fishing, very sustainable form of fishing. The location, the product, the landing of that tuna is then registered in our digital system with the Ministry of Fisheries in South Africa, and then that's passed on throughout the supply chain, so anybody then buying that tuna knows exactly where it's come from. And I think that for us was this immense step to showcase that small adaptations and uses of technology can result in a huge amount of impact very quickly. The seafood industry is very unique. It's one of the last industries to be digitized. So these fishers that had paper-based logbooks in the harsh oceans of the southern Atlantic were trying to fill these forms out in paper and pen. Today, they've got a smartphone in their hand, and that smartphone has our application on it, and all of that information is then passed on digitally. And frankly, I'm just so proud of Osama Al-Muqbel, who's our CTO. He ideated the idea. He came up with it, and seeing young guys from the UAE, that grew up here, now building technology from the region and exporting it to the world, it's nothing better than that.
For those that don't know, what are the kind of the problems that come with commercial fishing, and what are the different types of fishing, and what's the best versus the least friendly to our oceans? Yeah,
I think I defend good fishing. The seafood industry has existed long before any of us listening here were around, and therefore there is what we call a sustainable model to harvest our oceans, right? They are productive. Fish do breed, and therefore if we fish carefully, we will have enough fish in the sea to feed our populations. Overfishing is what a lot of people talk about. We're fishing too much. That comes with regulation, and that comes from governments setting quotas on how much people can catch. Now, in order to set those quotas, we need data. And it's the lack of data that it's actually the core issue to a lot of the challenges that we face. And one of the biggest things that we target at Seafood Souq is called IUU, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. By deploying our digital logbook, we're actually giving the tools, i.e. the data, in the hands of regulators to help fishing become more sustainable. Once we do that, then we can start identifying which forms of fishing are more or less detrimental. There's certain amounts of nets, certain amount of lines that are very, very detrimental to our oceans. I'll be the first one to say that. But how do you help migrate an industry to more sustainable methods of fishing, like pole and line, by showing them the data of the damage that they're doing? And I think data is for us core and center to our strategy at Seafood Souq.
Yeah, so that lack of transparency and visibility, it can lead to other problems as well, right? Like, without knowing what's going on in our oceans, anything can happen. And there are lots of things related to human rights issues and, as you say, that kind of really damaging commercial fishing that can happen. So how is data going to change that? And do you see every fishing vessel in the future being driven by data and that visibility and accountability being there?
Let me start at the other end of the supply chain today, right? And maybe this, for those listening or watching right now, this will give you a little bit of a tangible sort of insight into why we do what we do. If you eat fish, and I eat a lot of fish, and you go to your local supermarket, or you're sitting in a restaurant, you're going to ask for some fish on the menu. Do you ask where it comes from?
I don't, and I know about these problems, and I should.
And a lot of people don't. And it's just, and I've always said that unfortunately we prioritize other proteins like beef much higher. There is almost an unwritten hierarchy in protein, where beef, and then comes chicken and others, and then seafood at the lower sort of rungs of that ladder. And it's unfortunate. We should be asking more questions. We should be asking more questions about our fish than maybe some of the other products, because seafood is the only protein the only food source that we extract from the earth. So it's more like mining than it is like farming, right? So if we don't have if it's not aquaculture, which is 50% farmed fish, then the other part is all wild caught, and it's the wild caught part where we can do a lot better. So if you ask that question today, you won't get an answer, because the people serving that seafood, whether it's a supermarket, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a restaurant, they may not know.
Well, if I ask them, will they know to start with, I think is the question.
Today, what we've found is that there are some fantastic sustainability-driven hotel groups and restaurants that do want to showcase how good their sourcing is. So they ask their suppliers to provide information, and that information comes through SFS Trace, where we can then use the same data that we would be collecting on fisheries and on aquaculture, and we can help audit the supply chains of restaurants, of hotels, of supermarkets. And pass on the data to say, this is how transparent your seafood sourcing is. The problem that we face today, and I'm not here to be polite or politically correct, if you are sitting in a restaurant today, Maz, and you order sea bass, and you say to your waiter or waitress, where did the sea bass come from? And they'll say, oh, we source from Greece. Greek sea bass is a wonderful product. But what tends to happen is a restaurant or a hotel will demand that. And then a few months into those deliveries, the supplier will swap it out for a cheaper product that comes from a different part of the world. And you will not know the waiter or waitress will not know. A discerning chef would know. But it's extremely difficult to control that because fishes are really, there is no genetic testing done on fish on a day-to-day basis to know exactly where that seafood comes from. So once again, our solution to that is technology. And more hotels here, we're really proud actually, more hotels are adopting our technology. And soon you will be able to ask, you will be able to have a QR code on your menu to let you know where that fish has come from, who the supplier is, if it was wild caught, which part of the ocean was it caught in?
I mean, there's the cost element as well, right? If I'm paying a lot of money for, a wild caught salmon or something like that, and then I get something that's completely, not even a salmon, maybe something that's just been
the estimates are 1 in 4, 1 in 5 fish you eat is mislabeled.
There was a big scandal in the US. I'm not going to say the brand, but
I'm totally happy to say it. Tuna is sometimes not tuna. Salmon is usually swapped out for trout. Chilean sea bass, which is a wonderful fish, and unfortunately is being overfished. If you actually look at Chilean sea bass, it doesn't look like a sea bass. It's called Patagonian toothfish. They've rebranded it as Chilean sea bass to promote consumption. But I think the industry just needs a little bit more transparency, and it maybe starts with you that's sitting in your car at home listening to this podcast right now or watching it on whatever channel you're watching it on to ask more questions.
To demand. It's a consumer protection issue at the end of the day. Outside of work, what do you do to relax?
I don't think I've ever told anybody this. I play music.
Really?
I like to play music. I read. I like to read.
What kind of books?
I'm a geek. I shouldn't be saying this on a podcast. I love economic research. So
really?
I spend a lot of time I studied political economy. So I love.
Same. My master's is political economy.
So was mine. So I read a lot on the political economy of the region. I spend a lot of time doing that. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I go fishing. I go surfing. I sail. I free dive. I spend a lot of time in the ocean.
Anything in the ocean. Pretty
much.
Where do you like to meet people and go out and things?
I'm a dad now, so I don't really
go out at all.
I don't go out and meet people as much as I used to. My wife and I will admit we like the quiet dinners at home with some really close friends. And I think the cooking at home and spending time as a family, I think, is an extremely important part of how both my wife and I grew up. So finding the best product we can and spending some time at home cooking it and spending time with close friends. I'm known to throw a barbecue or two.
Oh, lovely.
So that's really the weekends in the Al-Qasmi household.
Cool. And what are your children? Are they also equally enthused by the ocean? Do you see them going into a similar career path?
I feel so sorry for my boys because they were thrown into the deep end, both figuratively and literally. I took them to the Maldives and they went snorkeling for their first time, and they're practicing their free diving already at the age of 6, which is really cool. They're not afraid of jumping in the water with black-tip reef sharks, which we did.
Wow.
They've been on turtle rescues with us,
awesome.
my wife and I already, and I think as long as we're raising them to be very mindful and conscious of the positive change they can make, then I'll continue to be as proud as I am of them.
Amazing. And Fahim, what kind of advice would you give to anyone looking to go into ocean conservation?
I think that my very, very unique and polarizing viewpoint is that there are a lot of people that are fascinated in the next generation with space, and space is an important part of where research is going by all means. But the ocean covers about 70% of our planet and accounts for about 98% of the water on our planet. And we know nothing. So I really commend people out there that are investing in ocean research, in carrying on the torch from the Jacques Cousteaus of the world and continuing to ask the questions and find out more in discovering what we can do to save this beautiful part of our planet.
There's so much more research that needs to be done, and little time really as well.
Definitely.
Well, Fahim, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.